The knowledge base of what we do in medicine needs to have advanced to the point where you understand what a cell secretes, how cells communicate, and what growth factors are, and what an exosome is, and the different types of things. The medical industry as a whole, and in particular, I think big pharma, realized very early on that cell therapy was the way the human body works, and they had to get ahead of the narrative before the science of using your cells to help you heal got kind of out of control. All right, I am so excited today because we've been trying to do this for a year and really trying to do it for at least a couple months, where we get to have one of my best friends on that has been a patient, her family's been a patient, her friends are patients, and outside of, and I've always said that the business model that I should have exploited, the way my practice would have really gotten busy, is if I would have just sent my mom somewhere every day on an airplane for lunch. Because every person that ever sat next to my mom on an airplane saw me as a patient.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like for real, my mom would, I told the story, my mom would give my cell phone number out to people.
Yeah.
Like on an airplane. Oh, and I would get a phone call.
Doctor.
Oh, when I graduated med school, one of my favorite things my mom ever said, and God rest her soul, like it's the most beautiful woman. My mom, when I graduated, she walks up, she goes, "Oh my gosh, we're finally doctors."
Yes.
And I thought she was thinking that, like figuratively. Oh, no.
No. It's a group. It's
My
a
mom
package.
would lead conversations about medicine where people are talking about things with, my son's a doctor.
Yes.
like
I always say
that was
my
her
friend
qualifying
Wade,
statement.
yeah, he knows
right?
everything. Like my friend Wade, he's so smart. He knows everything.
I love it. Yeah. But if my mom's not around anymore and I can't send my mom all over the country, and everyone, just because if you sat next to my mom, you were going to see me, would be just, I just need to shower accolades on the Elliott family. Because if Tracy, my favorite thing about her husband is one of my best friends. Tracy always says that she was my friend first because we met first. Yeah. And so Tracy and I became like kindred souls very, very quickly. And then when I met her husband, I was kind of you guys' token single friend.
Yeah, it was a
for
bromance
a really
for
long
sure.
time.
Yeah.
So your husband goes down the science side of everything. Like he wants articles and he wants to talk about discussion. And every now and then I'll overwhelm him to the point he goes like, I don't need to know how the baby's made.
Yeah.
Can you do this? Yeah. Okay. Tracy is exactly opposite. Right?
I don't care.
Tracy's like, look, the funniest thing you ever said was, I think you said he could tell me to sprinkle sheep urine in a circle, turn 3 times and do this, and like I would do it.
Yes,
like,
I tell people that all the time, that you could tell me to go get in that corner, stand on your head, put, Epsom salt around, like whatever, and I'm going to do it because I know you know everything.
Well, I do. I at least have read enough to know what our options are.
Yeah, well,
right?
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, I trust you more than anybody. Like, seriously, like, you could literally say, hey, you could literally punk me and be like, hey, you know what? Every night I think you would do really great if you went and walked around the counter 5 times and then like went and stood on your head in the corner, and that would get your blood flowing to blah, blah, blah. And I'd be like, oh, okay, yeah. And Brian come in and be like, why the hell are you
why are you doing that?
Yeah, like, what are you
doing?
doing?
He would call me. Like, if that ever happened, it would be originating with Brian or one of your sons.
Yes.
Right? Probably EJ.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
Yeah.
EJ's like, hey. When my mom comes over.
Yeah, but you do, I mean, you are so, not just medically, like not just studied, like anybody can study and learn, but intuitively you're so good, and just your love and your passion for wanting people to be the best and to feel the best, and, my husband always feels like that well, Wade just needs to be quicker with the patients and he needs to be, less time talking. And I'm like, yeah, but when you're in there, you're really glad it's you he's talking to. Like you really, so it's always funny to me. I always tell him like, but you have to have both. You can't, he really genuinely cares. And the problem is nobody genuinely cares anymore. Like it's just like a get them in, get them
They're
out,
not
check
allowed
this
to,
box.
really.
No.
Right.
Well, but you do. And I always laugh about, because Brian, is not like us and he'll walk off in the middle of a conversation. But
My favorite thing about Brian is he won't even say goodbye.
No, because he doesn't care.
People will be talking to him and he's like,
yes. And I don't care who you are. I've
No, it
been
doesn't
married
matter.
to him for 30 years and he still does it, right? But but with you too, like when people are complaining, like if they have to wait in the waiting room or whatever, I always say, well, you would wait for the very best.
Oh, I appreciate that.
And just know that, because when you're sitting in the waiting room and you're aggravated, when you're in the room, you want that conversation.
If you're waiting,
yes,
it's not. There's someone else getting attention.
Yes,
right? For
you're
sure.
not sitting in the back eating a friggin' sandwich.
I don't do that. I don't even.
I've never seen you even eat at the clinic.
No.
Ever.
No.
Ever. I always say it's like Kramer from Seinfeld. You come in like your hair is on fire, like through the
I literally
door,
just kind of try to run from room to room.
Yeah.
Now, once I get in a room, I'm going to sit there until until I figure out what's going on with you.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people don't know how to put together their symptoms and describe what's going on. And a lot of times what people think is causing their problem isn't what's causing their problem. And especially if they've been unsuccessfully treated for this problem already. Because it's not like Western medicine doesn't have some decent little dial-in options for people as long as they get the diagnosis right.
But I'm just saying too, Wade, like
right.
not everybody, like I don't care, again, and I'm not just saying this to boost you, but I don't mind boosting you.
I love that. Thank you.
But the truth is that your intuition and just what the Holy Spirit, like what you know is as much as what you've learned reading a book, because I say all the time that you are so gifted, like just that God gave you that. And so it's really frustrating for me when I try to tell people, I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like he's an orthopedic surgeon, but you don't understand. Like he knows, he knows everything medically. Like I ask him about anything and he knows it. And if he doesn't know it, he'll read and learn and figure it out. And he'll call me at 2:00 in the morning or send me a text at 2:00 in the morning like, hey, remember when you asked about this? So this is what it was. And I love that. And that's such a gift. And I see people suffering and walking around all the time. And I always think, well, I usually will tell them, hey, you should go see my friend Wade. And they're like, oh, but he's an orthopedic. I'm like, no, but it's more than that. Just go in there and tell him what's wrong, because he's going to know. And it is a blessing. I mean, it's such a blessing for us, but you don't give yourself enough credit. And it's unreal. Like the things I've seen you do with me, with my kids, with Brian, with people. I mean, I send every,
You are the great. So in pets and people, and I was one of those, by the way. Like I always tease that Tracy is the great gatherer of strays.
Yeah.
Because I was one of her strays. And then you become kind of in, and then once she fixes you, then she moves on and brings in more into the, like she will take a stray, rehome it, get it, all its appointments, get it healthed up, and then move on to the next project. Right? Yeah, you have project people. Yeah. Fortunately, I started out as a project person for sure, and every now and then she still has to revisit see how her work's going, to the point that I'm probably one of the few people, or maybe I'm not one of the few people, that you've ever dumped a rescue bunny off
at their house. You are, for sure.
Because I also have a girlfriend that is a great collector of strays, and Tracy knew for sure, because Ashley is the sweetest person in the world. 100%, because she had told me that she had some chicks at one point in the closet. We raised chickens in our closet. Yeah.
So I knew that she could take this bunny.
We fostered like 30 eggs that weren't supposed to hatch. And we had like 28 chicks out of the 30 foster eggs.
After I heard that story, I was like, okay, she would take this bunny.
It is amazing the amount of noise that 28 chicks can make in a closet.
Yeah.
In a box. And I bet we spent easy $300
Yeah.
at Tractor Supply
Yeah.
on lights and chicken. And she goes down the rabbit hole of knowledge. She knows everything in the world about raising chicks now.
Yes.
And
And she knows
now-
everything about bunnies
And
now.
now
Yes.
you have
Yes.
added bunnies
Yes.
to our to the point that in my living room
Yes.
we have a free range bunny
And he's so cute.
that has like a 6x6 glass enclosure, but he only sleeps in there at night
Yeah.
because during the day he just kind of has free roam, and he will only
But
go on the
animals
carpet.
know good people, right? Like they can sense it in like Snow White, right? So,
Well,
you know.
Tracy took a bunny from a bad situation and rehomed it at my house
Yes.
with one phone call to Ashley to say, and you just knew
Yeah,
that
I did.
Ashley was
Well,
going to
I-
say yes,
literally,
right?
though,
there wasn't one of those, are you guys interested in phone
But
calls?
literally, when I knew I had this bunny that I had to do something with, I instantly thought of her, which was so bizarre. And then I was like, listen, hey, no pressure, but hey, I've got this bunny. And she's like, yes, we'll take it. And I was proud of her for that.
You know what? I think I as a girl dad, I think it's a significant show of growth that the person in my life just knew that she was going to be able to get a bunny into my house without a lot of pushback.
Mm-hmm.
Because
You're fairly
because I don't
easy going that way.
I know. Whew. I've gotten. I think it took. I've been beat down enough to where it eventually got easy going. I started out pretty specific about how I wanted things done.
Mm-hmm. Oh, we all do.
Three
Like,
daughters
that's a
ago,
joke. Yeah.
right?
Yeah, it's a joke.
You know, the joke about the third kid. You just pick the passy up and wipe it up.
Yes,
The
yes.
third kid, you take it in your mouth first.
Yeah,
before you
exactly.
give the first kid, you have 10 passies. You're
sterilize
sterilizing
it,
them on
yeah,
it.
yeah.
The second kid, you're like, oh, I'll wash it off in the bathroom. The third kid, you just lick it.
Yeah, 100%.
So I think 3 daughters later, I've gotten a lot more laid back.
Yeah. Well, you have no choice.
You can only worry about so much.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Well, that's what I say too about all the animals, like, and people, and
But you do everything that way.
yeah.
And that, like, and anyone that you take that way, everyone ends up getting fixed, and then just feeling really blessed. And so you kind of have this fandom empire. So my daughters, we met almost a decade ago. My daughters is Miss Tracy.
Yes. It's so funny.
And
that-
my clinic, my staff,
I know,
Miss
Miss
Tracy.
Tracy, like, it's
Yeah.
so funny. I literally was thinking about that the other day because somebody called me Miss Tracy and they were older than me. And I just laughed to myself and I thought, yeah, that's just one name. Like, that's just it, right?
It's Miss
Like,
Tracy.
And I'll take that.
Because it's such
I've
a.
been called a lot worse.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I'm called a lot worse by
Yeah,
the same people
so-
that beat me
Yeah,
down.
not
and love me,
everybody's
yeah.
a fan of me,
No.
so it's cool.
My favorite comment I've ever made about myself, and it was very organic the first time I said it, is like, you know what? I'm just kind of an acquired taste.
Yeah, I just say I'm
Right.
just a lot and I'm not
Yeah.
for everybody, and that's okay because Jesus didn't say you had to love everybody, right?
Nope.
So just
you love everyone, but you don't have to you do not have to include people in your circle.
no, and I'm just not for everybody, and that's fine.
Some people don't want to be loved. If they wanted to
I
be
don't-
loved, they would be better people.
Yeah,
right?
I
Like,
don't care. Like, it's okay. Like, I'm good with just being for myself and my people, and But I do think though that you meet people in life, and I do believe that the Lord puts people in your path, and that like it is His plan. Like I keep saying, I want to write a book called Connect the Dots, because everybody is so, like we were just talking about, you're so connected. It's so how small the world is. It is insane how small the world is.
It still shocks me. Like there's zero chance. So I saw a patient yesterday. We were talking about this a second ago. That met Miss Tracy at inauguration.
Yes.
In a bathroom.
Yes, at a random party.
Right. At a party associated with the inauguration of our new president. God bless Donald J. Trump.
Yeah.
And I knew exactly who she was talking about, because she was talking to Julie, one of our mutual friends, is a pretty famous football player. That Tracy and Brian are like, Brian like ran his pack, I think, even for the Senate election, right?
For the Senate.
Amazing man, a hero to so many people. He can't walk out in a room without everyone wanting a picture and a handshake. She said, I meet this lady in a bathroom, and I'm just standing there, and then this famous athlete's like, he's there the whole time, and I don't know, like, I don't know why he's standing there. And then I figure, oh, I'm talking to his wife. And then this other woman walks up, this like really elegant, tall, big black hair, and I'm like,
that's so funny.
right?
And then
and she didn't know, had no idea,
not even a mile.
Yeah,
from
she
me.
had no idea and I'm like, she goes, but your name came up, and I'm like, yeah,
Isn't that
I
weird?
bet it did, right?
I mean, it is so. When you think about what are the odds that
You live across the street from each other
Yes.
almost, and you met him in D.C. for the first time.
yes, and what are the odds that you would be in, that Julie would be in, that we were late getting to that thing? You know, what are the
Yeah.
odds? Like everything that has. I always
There's
say
what,
that
500 people, 1,000 people there,
Yeah,
and
easily.
and this is the one person she's washing her hands next to in the bathroom.
And
Right.
think of everything that had to happen perfectly for that moment to happen. I always say that, like about. So I think that you know, Brian used to always say to me, like, my God, do you have to talk to everybody? Do you have to know everybody's life story? And I always tell him, like, yeah, if the Holy Spirit tells me to, I do, because when I meet people, sometimes I just know, like, I'm supposed to ask them, and I'll ask them things that I'll know I'm supposed to ask that I don't even know why I'm asking. And
That's how we met.
whatever.
You
Yeah,
came up to me at a political event
100%.
in our clinic.
But I came home that night and I said, oh my God, Brian, I met this guy. He's amazing, the doctor, and I was telling him, and of course, he didn't buy into everything the way I did. And he was like, I said, no, up there, they do like all these treatments and they do all this stuff. He's like, yeah, I got to go to work, whatever, to pay for the treatments.
Yeah.
So,
That's right. Someone has to go
yeah,
make the money.
exactly.
Yeah.
But so, but I think about that too a lot, like what I wasn't even supposed to be at. If you really sit.
I mean, there was that was a political thing we had at our clinic in South Lake.
Yeah.
But I think we had like 500 or 600 people there.
Yeah, it was.
And I remember no one from that. I didn't meet anyone for the first time at that event that I had any contact with except for you.
Yeah, it was just so weird. And then, but you think about your life, how many situations there are that way. Oh. How that you just happen to be sitting, wherever, doing whatever, and you meet these people. And then when you're traveling and you're halfway around the world and you meet somebody, it has happened to us before. I've been in Europe and having a conversation with somebody, oh yeah, I live in Westlake, Texas. Are you freaking kidding me? Like, what? And it is really such a small world. I mean, I feel like, and I used to think, well, it's just certain circles, but it's not.
Yeah.
Across
all races, incomes,
yes.
religions.
Yeah, demographics,
right?
completely. Yeah, it's just, but I love that. And I do feel like that God has a purpose for every relationship, I do.
Well, I will tell you right now that Brian, Brian's a hard person to describe in short sentences, but Brian is a rigid believer in knowledge base but Brian can be hard. Like Brian's not easily swayed, and he doesn't make decisions casually.
No.
I guess is the best way to maybe say that, which means you can trust his decision, right? Like Brian's solid. And when Brian adapts something,
well, but this is the
more
thing,
rigid,
though, too.
right? But Brian's
Once
always said, my favorite thing he says about you, though, is it's about Tracy's Rolodex. Like, she knows she'll talk to everyone. Like, Brian will be at a room, and he'll walk out, and he says, I don't know anyone there. Everyone there wants their name, and my wife's phone is being passed around with everyone's numbers put in it.
And I love people's stories, and I just think it's interesting to know how people got to where they are, and I genuinely do care if somebody, some stranger I meet says, oh, I'm, praying, or I'm trying to get this, or my birthday's name, or just whatever.
Well, and you don't even care who people are. It's not like it ends up being, there's a lot of bougie people in your Rolodex.
Yeah.
And it makes me, because Brian will send these pictures. There's my wife talking to Kirby Smart.
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, now Kirby's invited us to come to games,
Yeah,
and he wants to even do, just come.
Yeah.
And Brian's like, how's she do that,
Yeah.
right? So it's not only those people; it's everyone.
Anybody. Yeah.
But he'll be like, He'll just send me random pictures of you, and he'll be like, "Know who that is?" I'm like, "Oh my God, how did you meet that person?"
It's such a plethora of. I always say I have such a plethora of relationships of friends because I do. Like does not race, religion, financial none of that matters. If I sit and I have done this recently, thought about all the people that I really do know, and not just like, oh, hey, you know,
not going through your Forbes list.
No, like I could pick up the phone and freaking call. I mean, it's insane.
It makes me very happy, right? Because I don't have that. I work. I'm either with my daughters or I work all the time. But she will literally bring one of my favorite athletes of all time, because I'm an Oklahoma State guy. Tracy surprises me with his appointment, right? Like, doesn't even have the front girls, not even put his name on the schedule. I walk into the exam room, and there's this athlete, and Miss Tracy like, oh, I just ran into him.
I
and wanted
literally
him to
had just
introduce.
met him 2 days prior to that, and we had started talking about he was in our neighborhood looking at some lots or whatever, and I was in there, and I just said, hey, how did you get in this gate? Because we have this guard, and it was, our development. And so...
and the guard was going to let that guy in.
Yeah, 100%. And so, but
I'll tell you right now, I don't have to know who the guard was.
Yes.
If that guy wanted in, he's getting let in, especially in Texas.
100%.
Right,
and so but I didn't even recognize him or know, and I was just annoyed because, the time the development was empty for the most part. And I would go up there and try to walk, run, like not run, but like walk, run. And I was tired and frustrated, and I thought, who is this kid? And so then he introduces himself and just gives me one name, and I'm like, so are you like Cher? Do you not have, do you
have a last
and he
name?
was like, oh yeah, I do. And he tells me.
He was just shocked that you didn't know.
I had no clue.
Yeah.
And then I started putting it together.
That makes it even better.
Well, it's because I was freaking exhausted.
Yeah.
And I had just finished trying to work out. And so we just talked, and it went from him and his wife possibly looking in there to build a house. Then when I realized who it was, I said, hey, I pray for you. I said, I don't know the whole story, blah, blah. I said, but so what happened with that? And he kind of tells me, I said, oh my God, you need to see my friend Wade, like seriously. And so then he said, so what's up with that? And so I start telling him all the stuff that I know, the blah, blah, blah terms like I use.
So
just enough.
Tracy can describe stem cell science from
blah,
bone
blah,
marrow
blah.
to postnatal tissue cord with,
that stuff.
The thing to the stuff.
Yeah, it works. And I just say that like it works. That's all I know. And so he came to our house that night. And I go home and tell Brian, hey, I met this kid, blah, 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 blah. And he shows up that night. And then that Tuesday, we come to see you.
It surprised me with them. It was like a gift, right? It's
and
like,
then we've all been
and it was a
friends
gift to both of us. Yeah, and it was a gift to both of us, right? Like, honestly, he was broken.
Yeah.
And kind of ignored after they broke him. And then, but they left him hurting a lot. And he got his body back. He actually came back. He actually came back and got a contract for a year after being out of the league.
We all became really good friends.
And he's the nicest guy ever, right?
And just,
but so Tracy does that. If you're in Tracy's life, she will gift you other friends sometimes. Like if she finds two people that she's like, oh my gosh, like you guys have to meet, right? That's my favorite thing ever is I get one of those texts because Tracy. Oh, by the way, the difference between we married or with, I'm engaged, but we have kindred spirits. Like our spouses like going to bed.
Yes. Like our rule followers.
Like 9 o'clock, follow all the rules. And they go to bed. They both sleep, really eat. Like, I don't know how someone can go to sleep that easy. It drives me crazy that she can close her eyes for 5 seconds and she's asleep. Brian's the only guy and he's younger than me, but he's getting close.
He says clean conscience, clean heart.
Yeah, but he just shut his eyes and goes to sleep. Like, and Brian said he's always shocked when he goes because he goes with his wolf pack guys and stuff, and he's like, everyone's biggest complaints are they just can't sleep anymore. I'm
Brian
like,
can go to
no one can go to sleep.
like within 3 minutes. Hell, not even 3, 2.
Tracy's one of those people. I know for sure.
If you text
If
me.
I just pick up my phone and look at it, if there's a text after midnight, it's usually Tracy.
Yep.
And I know for sure that I'm probably one of the few people that text her back.
Yeah,
because
100%,
I'm not asleep.
No.
Like I'm reading or I'm going down a rabbit hole.
Well, and the funny thing too is they are both very much like I expect good things. I expect to to come out on the better end of something, right? And so
well, God is it's payback though.
Yeah,
right?
I guess. But
a lot of this is payback, Tracy, because if you look at, I think everything ends up kind of 50-50.
Yeah.
So if you have a really crummy beginning, I think God really ends up blessing you later,
but I also
right?
think too, it's kind of ignorance is bliss sometimes, right? So
Well.
for me, I don't always look at the rules of just, not that I don't like rules, but just certain things like if we're traveling and, going through customs, if I've bought a magnet,
You're not putting it on a customs
I'm not
form. It's
putting
a
it on a
$5
customs
magnet
form because
and a
it'll
T-shirt.
take longer. Yes. And
It
but-
even says anything under $1,500.
Exactly.
But we are both with someone that if you travel with them,
Brian just feels the need to just, even if it's under that, whatever.
wait, you still, like, we bought 5 T-shirts.
Yeah, but
I'm
we
like,
need to tell them, Tracy. And I'm like, no, we don't.
no,
Like,
they're
it's gonna
T-shirts.
take
They're not
so
going to
long.
care.
It's going to take so long.
I'm not getting in that line.
But he's
we'll
like,
go
yeah,
through the line of
yeah.
we just have some T-shirts and
So
trinkets.
we go separately through security. Just
There
because
are
it's
some countries
easier.
I will not travel with my fiance, I'm sure, because she looks like she's guilty.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
she gets so nervous that she
yesterday-
looks sus already.
Yes.
Like you're looking, if you're going to send the dog by people's suitcase, like especially if you're coming back from the Caribbean or somewhere, like I know for sure that she could get me strip searched.
Listen.
And
so
I'm like I'm the most teetotaler there is. I know for sure if I ever get strip shirts, it's because Ashley's with me looking nervous, holding out her
Yes.
passport.
And, and yesterday we had an insurance guy come into the house for home insurance. And, since we're moving, everything's a mess, right? Like everything's everywhere. And so Brian was like, well, don't forget the insurance guy's coming Thursday. Tracy, like you need to get all this stuff picked up. All this needs to be done. And I'm just like, okay, like, right. And I kept thinking, and I kept saying, but they know we're moving, right? Like, he's like, yeah, but it doesn't matter. Like, we need all this done. He just was worked up. So the house was clean, and the house looked fine. It looks like we're moving.
Yeah.
So yesterday morning, he goes to work out. He comes home, and he is, like, flitting around the house, like, picking, doing. And I said, what are you doing? And he said, well, that guy's coming. And I said, I tell you what, how about you leave?
It'll be fine.
And let me deal with the insurance guy.
It'll be fine.
Yeah, it'll be fine. And so I said, because I promise you people understand moving. And he's like, are you sure? I said, yeah, just go. I said, because if you're here, he's going to say, well, I know you probably
You're gonna
normally
cost us
check.
money.
Yeah, you probably normally check this. And not that there would be anything wrong with checking it, but it's just time. I wanted the guy in and out. So
Wait, you don't want to look at the hot water tanks in the attic?
Exactly.
Oh, I think you missed it.
We had this mowing thing put in for the sprinkler system, and then the guy'd be like, oh, yeah, I need to. And also, too, he would want to impress Brian and be more business with him than he would with me.
Yeah.
So he gets there. I'm putting my makeup on. I answer the door. I tell him, hey, sweetheart, I'm trying to put on some eyelashes. So I will be back, but you want to just show yourself around? I'm moving and blah, blah. And he's like, yes, Miss Elliott, that would be fine. And was there maybe 15 minutes and said, I didn't see one thing wrong. Here's all the stuff. I said, great.
Yeah.
Super.
That would have not taken 15 minutes.
No.
If it was Ashley or
But
Brian.
He did say, are you the Elliott? Is your husband the developer? And I said, he is. And he said, well, his reputation precedes him. Like, he's done some amazing things. And then I knew for sure I was right to not have him there because he would have been wanting to impress Brian.
Right. Yeah. Well,
and he was a super nice guy, super sweet, and loved architecture and all of that. And so, But I just said,
But he would have been taking Brian down the why do you use a 6-inch rail underneath for the
and Brian would have said,
and Brian would have taught him.
Yeah, and Brian would have said too, like you said, like, hey, well, if you need to check this, then it's in the attic. Like, no, how about no? So anyway, so that's just an example of that. Yeah.
But that's good.
Yeah.
Because we have because both and here's the cool part about it. Both of those people really like us.
Yeah.
Right?
It balances it out.
Yeah. And there was someone that's really unlike them.
Mm-hmm.
And it works, right? Like you and Brian work. Brian, but I know at 9:00 if my phone rings and it says Brian, I know it's you calling me from Brian's phone.
Or it's an emergency.
Yeah. Or you guys got stuck at a dinner and Brian doesn't want to be the only one there.
Yes.
And it's close enough to my house where he knew I'm not doing anything anyway.
Yes, 100%.
As long as it's on a Thursday night that I have my 12-year-old, he's like, I'll just call Mckenna. He'll come up. Right?
Yes.
Like he'll entertain me.
100%.
Right?
And but usually, like he left the other night, we were all out hanging out, and he left, and I stayed with Elijah and some other people, and he said, I'm going home, and we were just sitting up at, Social Oak, and he was just like, well, I'm going to go home, and I'm going to leave y'all up here, and I was like, okay, then. I think y'all had come by, and y'all left,
I think, we came by and left.
And then.
I will, especially with work or if we've got a big day, I will try to use Brian's exit as my, like he greases the skid for me to get out, right?
Yeah, but you realize, like we said, though, he'll just get up and leave.
But sometimes he cheats me out of that.
Yeah.
Like I'll be like, when did Brian leave? And
they're
like, he just walked, and I'll be like,
home in bed. Yeah.
Like you have to pay attention.
Yeah.
If you're going to use Brian as the gauge on when I can leave.
Yeah.
Like when is it okay? When's things winding down? Like if you're using, because you can't use Tracy or I's that, because you'll stay till they close down.
Yeah. And then I'm going to talk to them while they're
and then the owner brings. Then the owner will go back and reopen to get an extra because he wants you to try this and we're getting, you know what? I'm gonna call the chef back. You didn't have this today.
And then I'm gonna have to pray over everybody there, and then I'll have to talk about that. I have to tell you something funny.
It'll be 3 a.m.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and then I'll wonder why I'm tired the next day. But so when I was gonna tell you, we were talking about with Brian.
But think how many things like that Brian's missed out on.
I know.
Because Brian's like 9:00, 10 maybe.
Yeah.
Brian's asleep.
He just doesn't care to be around.
He doesn't have. He has less FOMO than anyone I've ever known.
None.
Right? Because I can't hardly go to bed if I think there's stuff going on.
None. And he never feels like he hasn't completed a list for the day. Like my day ends and I think of all the stuff I didn't do, and that's a terrible habit. Yeah. And he doesn't. He thinks of everything he got done and moves on. But I was going to tell you, this is funny too.
Goals.
So we didn't meet first, and then and it wasn't that Brian wasn't impressed. It was just, he was like, well, that all sounds good, like nice, blah blah blah. Yeah. Well, I tell him all about, like, at the time I was using that cream and just all the research you'd done and all this stuff, and he was like, oh, that's cute, yeah, sweet, Tracy. But then when y'all become friends and you tell him, it's like he just heard it for the first time. And I'm like, wait a second. No, I have told you that for 5 years.
Yeah, 5 years ago. That was my story 5 years ago.
I was the one that knew about this first. But no, Wade said. I'm like, wait a second. No, I said that first, that Wade said it. Yeah. But that doesn't matter now. So, like, he'll come home after he's been up at the clinic and tell me something, and I'm like, I already know about that. No. I'm just saying Wade said this. And so whereas he may have been a little, skeptical in the beginning, he has the science behind it now, and he has. Whereas I just said because you said so, he needed the white papers or whatever it is he says, But speaking of all of that, let's talk about my back.
I love it. I love his transition because it's not even just your back. When Tracy says her back, she's talking about 3 levels in her neck and 3 levels in her back and an old compression fracture. Mm-hmm. Radiographically, when I made her husband come up to look at her films after I finally got her to let me take films, it was fairly shocking that, like, I had heard you say your neck hurt before, and you always held your shoulders up and you would turn like as one unit. You didn't have that supple. You never looked relaxed. And so I just thought you're just high strung, like you're a little like me, and you just can't. No, it was because you had like 3 levels of collapse in your neck and back, right?
It's my neck freaking
and
hurts.
then and you don't complain about that until you get to know you a little bit, and then one day you're finally like, look, like we're gonna have to do something.
Well, the day that I called you and said, hey,
because you've been saying we're gonna do something for like a year.
Yes. Yeah. For several years.
Yeah, for like a couple years, you've been like, we're going to do something with my neck and back someday.
I promise I'm going to do it. I want you to look at it. But the day that I finally had enough, and I said, you know, I need to come up there and I need X-rays or something. You need to send me somewhere. It was just hurting. I just couldn't hardly walk, but it had always hurt, and that's the thing. You know, you feel bad. You don't want to complain because I think, oh, my lower back hurts, and like my neck would hurt so bad right here. I mean, I would just always doing like that, and I would even be talking to people and have my hand like this, you know, and stuff. And, you know, but then I always think too, well, everybody's back hurts. I mean, I'm 55, you know, and so everybody's back hurts, everybody's neck hurts, you know. But I would go to get out of bed of a morning, Wade, and this is the God's honest truth, and I would put my feet down and my back would lock up and I could hardly move. Like sometimes I would even have to do like that just to walk, you know, to the bathroom or whatever, to keep it from just the shock of if I stood up. And, you know, and I just thought, well, it needs to be adjusted, you know, that's always, it needs to be adjusted, or I need to go get a massage or whatever. Anyway, bottom line is I was just thinking everybody's back hurts, and what difference does it make, you know?
Well, your baseline pain tolerance was really high. It just finally got to the point where you just finally had to stop.
Well, you know, and I just thought, well,
like it finally started winning.
Well, I'll tell you what, too, was when I started listening to about you treating all these other people, and me thinking, well, you know, if it's really that easy, like it's not.
Actually, it was probably a basketball star kid.
Yes.
That came in not even able to stand up that you guys brought to me.
When I saw that, I
and
said,
you saw
well,
him get better, and you're like,
yeah, I need to do it for sure. And so when you took the films and you were like, well, have you ever been in an accident? Or no.
So you've been thrown around.
Yes.
Right.
And so it was from my childhood, and it wasn't, you said there was scar tissue over it, like you could tell it was old.
Everything's old and collapsed.
Yeah.
She had a couple of compression fractures in her neck and low back that were old trauma.
Yeah. And you said, have you been thrown down? And I said, not as an adult. Yeah. So when we got it done, I go in, and the next, and mind you, I had seen several people come out of those having that treatment done, and they would kind of be a little stiff and like stuff, and so Wade kept saying to me, I
was worried because the neck part, I was pretty sure, because it's the only thing out there I would ever let anyone do to you, because you have like 3-level disease, and a 3-level fusion removes 50% of everyone from the workforce that has that. So, and you add her low back to that, and the interdiscal injection with cells in a disc, because she has 2 big tears, with a collapse, with bad stenosis, with hip pain, you're like, man, like this is gonna hurt. Right? Like the epidural part in the neck with a bunch of cells breaking all scar, that can be like in the first couple of weeks, even that can make you feel better. But man, when you inject discs in the low back, you're building up all that pressure. You're injecting cells right where your pain is from, and it can make people pretty stiff and sore. So I'm really concerned, because when Miss Tracy finally decided to go to sleep, she wanted a lot, like a lot. She let herself get really broken before she was going to go to sleep ever. But if you're going to go to sleep, I want this, back,
needles.
Neck. A carpal tunnel, a tendon reconstruction. Like, let's just I want everything that it wants. And all my staff was like, there's no way he's going to do that. And my nurse goes, he will for Miss Tracy.
Yeah, and my
so they
thought
set
was make the most of being asleep.
Yeah, no,
you
for
know?
sure.
And so
Wade
it was
really, a lot.
Yeah,
I was scared to death of how much pain are you going to have in a recovery room, right? I mean, I was worried because I knew I had just hurt you. Like that procedure, I've done a lot of 7-foot tall athlete, 28-year-olds with just a bad trauma, and they're crying.
Yeah, I saw. Right? I've seen it.
Right?
Yeah, for sure.
So they're back there going, "Oh, it's so sore."
I mean, it's
and
just
I'm like,
so tight.
It's sore.
This, that.
Yeah.
But so you were so cautious telling me, and so I have told everybody this, and this is on my life. This is the truth. Well, when I woke up, I felt fine, but I'm not thinking even why I was waking up, what happened, whatever. So I get home, and you call me later that night, and you were really hesitant. You're like, "Hey, so how are you feeling?" Yeah.
I called to check, ask Brian to make sure you were sleeping.
I
don't want to wake you up.
Yeah.
I don't want to wake you up. And you answered.
Yes.
Instead of Brian.
Yes.
And I was like, you're supposed to be in bed. You're supposed to be asleep.
And I was in bed, but I was just laying there watching. I think we were solving a murder on Dateline. And but I literally felt amazing. I swear. And you were like, "There's no way," and you're not stiff, you're not this. I said, "No." I swear to you, Wade, and that's why I wanted to come on and do this. I felt like you don't know how bad you feel until you feel better, right?
No, yes.
Like
especially if you get hurt over a really long period of time. You just start accepting it.
I can't remember a day in my adult life, or heck, as a kid, that my back didn't hurt. So it's just one of those things. It just hurts. It's whatever, right? Well, it's always like, oh, I'm carrying too much weight, or oh, it's this, or it's that. It needs to be
you take a lot of blame for why you're
whatever,
hurt. Right.
yeah. But I'm telling you,
I shouldn't have done this yesterday.
I felt unbelievable.
You would say your excuse is, well, I've been moving furniture. I took rugs, or I did this. Right? Yeah.
Yeah. But it would hurt. My neck would hurt me so bad. I mean, Brian would have to rub my neck every day, right? Like just massage. I would have just a lump here. And my lower back, it would be in spasms.
Because that one curve.
And it would, yes. And I would have just a knot right there. So when I woke up, I just felt so much better. And literally, it was like a freaking miracle. And so the next day, I felt even better. Like I was, and so...
And there's no numbing messing. So that's the other thing. If you're doing epidurals traditionally, you use a lot of local anesthetic and some narcotic.
Well, and that's what I asked Brian.
Yeah,
I
you
said,
can't put any local anesthetic near the cells because it kills them all.
Yeah.
Right? So
I'm not kidding you. Like then there would be times I would just be walking and really think to myself, my God, like my legs aren't hurting, or from my back, or my, like I would get
You were blaming a lot of your leg pain even on a knee injury.
Yes.
Because you do have a bad knee.
But I would get out of bed.
But it was her hip.
Yes.
From her back.
Yes. But like even this morning I got out of bed and I started laughing thinking about that. Like I don't remember what it's like to hurt, but I do. But it's just so bizarre. Like now, like seriously.
Yeah,
and I told Brian a couple of days ago, I said, I've not one time since December 8th is when we did it, said my back hurts. And I'm not kidding. It is, and that's why I do push people to it, to tell people, like, I'm not trying to tell you something that I don't get any kind of commission. I'm not in something with Wade. It's not some gamut. Like it's real. And if you're in pain, you need to go and get this done. I'm not joking with you. Like it's like night and day. I can't even explain it. And I believed in it anyway,
Oh, no.
But to feel it and to realize.
Well, you had experienced some cells on little, just like I did.
Yes.
Just to keep the boat from sinking.
Yes. Well,
right? Throw a patch on this or put some, we could do all the little stuff, but you were never going to take the time to do back and neck.
But it was
because that's
unreal.
a way bigger deal.
Unreal. Even now, just sitting, you just feel like there's not any pain. And forever, there was just always this pain here in my neck. And again, you just think that it's what it is. You're 55 and your back hurts, So I'm telling you that it is the best thing. I told Brian that day. I said, that is the best thing I've ever done for myself.
You know what?
And I've done a lot of good stuff for myself.
I love that.
Yeah.
That makes me, I live vicariously through you and Brian all the time, right? And it's enough for me, actually. I'm fine with that. Like Tracy will be going somewhere or meeting the president, or I'll get a picture of Tracy talking to someone, and I'll be like, what? And I'll text Brian back.
But I always share with you
because
because
you
totally
happen?
Appreciate
it.
Right?
I love it. Yeah. Right? Like for me, it's like listening to your kids when they win a sporting event. Like I want to hear all about it. I want to watch it. so for me, it's entertainment because all I've ever done is like work and take care of a couple kids.
Well, I'm just your walking billboard now, for
Well,
sure.
I
If
love
I
that.
was before, I was a believer and an advocate and a cheerleader, and just because I know how smart you are, and I've seen you with patients, and I've seen you. I mean, you took care of Elijah, and I've seen you. The stuff you've done, and I know who you are. So that was great, but. Like now, and I told Brian that I said I'm literally like a walking commercial for weight right now.
Well, here's the best thing about what we did for you.
Is that my back, when my feet hit the floor, my back doesn't hurt.
Yeah. But there's really not a lot of places in the world that you could have that done that way, right?
No.
Because to be able to snake a little catheter and cervical epidural and take care of 3 levels in your neck with no surgery, no real downtime,
no downtime.
Like, and oh, by the way, inject 2 discs in your back, this done. Like for me, you always push me to come up with a better way, right? Like, it's one of those things of, hey, I want all this done, and I'm like, well, usually we would do this, and you're like, no.
Yeah, just
like,
I'm going to be asleep for this amount of time.
Like, here's our goal. You're going to have me here, and I want to come out like this, and it's like, whew, like here's the only reason it's possible. And this will resonate so well with you. I was talking to someone, and I think I finally figured out why Western medicine is so broke. If you're not corporate sponsored, if you're going to take big pharma corporate sponsored medicine out of the game, and number one, I don't even think it's the doctor's fault at this point anymore. Now I do think that you should look around and go. But I do think, but here's part of it. For sure. You got to question authority. Like, come on, people. Like, the greatest tragedy in the history of the world was perpetrated on a lot of people. Mm-hmm. But if you think of it like Western medicine is McDonald's, you can't go in McDonald's and order a Whataburger. No. Right? Because they're McDonald's. Mm-hmm. That's what Western medicine is. They're so corporate sponsored now that all of your options are branded options, and there's a flow chart of care, and they won't even go to the time to make the right diagnosis because if you have a symptom, they can throw this code on your symptom, and then this is the treatments for it.
Yeah, and also too,
we just don't have to do that.
No, and that's the thing that But this is what I tell people too. So now, the. Do you remember a couple of years ago when all this first started? Like everybody was talking about, so you've done the sales and stuff in the orthopedic side for years, right?
For trauma.
So when everybody was spinning and doing the
PRP,
and so it became a thing, right? Everybody was doing it.
But 10 years after it was a thing, right?
Yeah, and I tell people that all the time. I was like, Wade was doing this 20 years ago.
94,
for
96,
the love of God, So if I'm telling someone about it and they say to me, well, Tracy, I think I know, I've heard of that, and I think I know somebody that does that. I'm like, the analogy that is best for me is you can buy a really cute Louis Vuitton on the corner of 57th Street in New York. Cute, looks fine, does the job, right?
Yeah.
Or
still hold stuff.
Yeah. You can take your behind to the Louis Vuitton store in New York, in Manhattan, and buy the real thing. So that is...
And then you have the box and the receipt and
then
the sack
you have
and the
the
experience.
real bag. And guess what? It's not going to fall apart. Yeah. And so for me, I always say to everyone, look, I'm not dissing whoever that does this, and I'm not talking bad about them, and I'm not saying they don't have a good product, but I know that Wade makes sure that what he has is the best of the best. Like, I know that he's got so much pride and cares about so much about how he treats people and what he does, that the product that he uses isn't going to be half-ass, right?
No.
So it's not going to be that he cut corners on this, and this to get this graph or whatever, to inject, because he's trying to spread it out to get the most.
Yeah.
And
it's not an economic decision.
He wants the best results for you. And he's not, and I say that all the time. I'm not shopping around. I don't shop around. I love TJ Maxx, but when it comes to my physical body, Like, I'll wear $14 jeans, but I'm not going the cheapest route on my freaking health. If I can help it,
it's
and praise
about value,
God, yeah,
right? Like, no, for sure. Like, there are things that are like there's no difference.
Well,
like when
but
you
the
come
funny-
in, my favorite thing is when you come in with some Target piece of clothing on or something.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's beautiful. And you're like, got it at Target, $20. And I'm always like, you did not get that at
Yes,
Target.
I
And you're
did.
like, yes, I did.
The pants I have on right now, I got TJ Maxx. Yeah.
Like, that's my favorite thing. But you understand the things that you can do that for.
Well, and the
because
same
it's a value decision.
And the same, I was
like, you don't want to waste money.
I was talking to someone the other day, and I said, well, you know, you need to go in. It was a lady, and we were just had met at an event, and she said something, and I said, yeah, well, I just had my back. I had some discs in my back that were messed up, and I said, but my friend says, doctor, he's amazing, blah, blah, blah. And I said, but he injected cells in my disc, and I'm not kidding you. It's a miracle. And she's like, well, how much is it? And I said, well, I don't know, like 20 grand or something. I said, I don't really know exactly how much stuff cost or whatever up there. And she's standing there with like this purse and I just said, like, what's it worth to you? Like, if you, you know, if you have the money, we all justify like what we can spend on stuff, right? Especially, you know.
I have a value in my head that something's worth or not worth
Exactly.
before I know the price.
And so my thing is this, you know, if you can afford to do other things, look at it like you could spend that money on your health is as important, you know, is what I'm saying. Like, not everybody, like,
investing in, most people are willing. It's amazing to me.
Yes.
How much people will throw away frivolously time too.
Yeah.
Time and money, and not invest into themselves with reading or taking a class or school. Like, you need to put time into yourself, and you need to put money into health.
Yeah, and
right?
I'm not saying by any means, I'm not saying, okay, so I'm not by any means belittling and being like, oh, everybody should just be able to go pay, you know, 20 grand for stuff. All I'm saying is that if you are economically able to carry.
Well, if you're going to spend money on your health and not be able to work and take time off work, like for me, the reason I've used cells on almost everywhere I've hurt before I would let anyone do anything else is because I needed to work. Mm-hmm. Like, I can't take much time off.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to go to therapy 3 times a week.
Yeah.
Right? Like, is there something that doesn't involve that keeps me from having to lose?
Well, and then
time?
Too, you hear people talk constantly about, oh, I flew to Europe to get this done, or I did this, and I'm
that's
like,
my
okay,
favorite.
well, you know, you can get it done here, but it just sounds better, I guess, in Europe. Well,
which is way more expensive,
Yeah.
and even the process that people will go to Germany for. That process, taking the product that he does and taking blood and spin cell and doing this and then using little glass beads and all that, the whole procedure, that is like bone marrow aspirate concentrate is 3x of that.
Yeah.
As far as the potency of treating an injury. I've done 25,000 bone marrow draws in the U.S. Like, it's not banned.
Which, by the way,
like, it's fine.
Which, by the way, the first time you did the bone marrow draw on me, I was in the shower when I got home and said to Brian, why do I have these Band-Aids on my hips? So when I tell people about the bone marrow draw, they kind of cringe. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like, you don't even feel it.
That's the thing. A lot of people are really afraid of that.
Yes.
And that's not really valid, right?
Yes. It's just such a blessing, I guess, that I can afford to have gotten that done for my back. And so my thing is always the people that can afford to do that, why not do it, I guess.
Well, here's the best thing about the new administration. And it's not even that it's that expensive if you compare it to Western medicine, if Western medicine's coming out of your pocket.
Yes. Well,
right?
that's what I'm saying.
Like, if you were going to go have a back surgery, 1 level fusion's $250,000. Mm-hmm. Oh, and you're going to miss out on 6 weeks of your life. You have a 3 to 5% infection rate in the first month. Like, it could be a disaster, right? Shoulder surgery. Shoulder scope at a hospital, $45,000, $50,000. Like, they charge you $14 for a Tylenol in the recovery room, right, when you look at your bill. So if you're the one paying for it, cells are incredibly better value. It's way less expensive in a private OR to take your bone marrow, even though that kit's not cheap. If you're going to do it right, there are some cheap ways to do stuff.
Yeah.
But cheap and not effective is not okay.
Like I said, I just think it's so
like there are some things worth spending money on.
Yes, and it's just so sad to me that there are people that aren't that just, I guess, will shop around or whatever.
Well, they just don't know sometimes too. Like I used, and that used to be where I was at with cell science. I used to think that if I just keep preaching to the choir, that eventually they'll go, "Oh my God, the science behind this is way better than the science behind this and this." I didn't know, and Tracy and Brian are instrumental in my pivot, that I couldn't change medicine from within. Like I thought that the only reason they're against the stem cell part of this and healing and just throw drugs at it is because they just don't understand that there's a better alternative. I didn't understand how corporately bought the narrative was, and that they're not motivated to do something better anyway.
That want to do it, they just do it their way, and that's fine, you know? But I will say it's about how I feel about Jesus and everything else. Like, I'm not going to push what I believe on you. I know it works for me, and I would love for you to experience the same thing. But if you choose not to, nobody's mad.
I agree.
I have a really good friend that we have this saying, and it's no crying on the yacht. And so he's actually a college basketball coach for a school that he was really good. And he would say he didn't get a recruit one time. And this is a different coach than the one you're thinking of. He didn't get a recruit one time. And I said to him, "Hey, I'm really sorry. Like, you know, I know you were wanting to get that kid." And he said, "That's okay, Tracy. There's no crying on the yacht." Because,
I know the one you're talking about.
Because he's still going to have a great team. And he said, "I'm just sad for
His
the
name's
kid."
closer to the beginning of the alphabet.
Yes. And he said, "But I just, you know, he's going to miss out on opportunities that he could have had, and that makes me sad, you know." And he said, "But there's no crying on the yacht. We're still going to go to
no crying on the yacht." Yeah, we're still going to the Final Four.
Yeah, exactly.
Right,
yeah.
No crying on the yacht.
Yeah.
We have that in orthopedics because orthopedic surgeons aren't known as being necessarily we're not pediatricians.
Yeah.
Right. Like, our mentality may be a little bit more rub some dirt on it sometimes, right? We always say there's no crying in surgery.
Yeah.
There's no crying in baseball. It comes from the old movie.
There's no crying in politics.
No crying in politics. No, that's my favorite thing about the new administration.
Yeah.
Is talk about taking one for the team and just kind of move them on. It used to bother me how much energy they would spend defending themselves because you just felt the need to. It looks like now, like, you guys criticize all you want. We're just going to be busy. Like, the adults are in charge. Yeah. Right. Like, we don't need to defend ourselves anymore.
My favorite thing currently is, do you honestly think Elon Musk cares what you think about him?
Oh, the stupidest billionaire. I can't believe someone said that out loud.
Names before.
No, right. Like, he caught a rocket.
Yeah.
No, not just in a rocket space. Caught it.
Yeah.
Kind of cool.
Not even that,
right?
But like, do you think he got to where he is by being worried about what people say about him?
You know what?
Had a turbulent childhood.
Your husband, because your husband is a very seasoned businessman.
Yeah.
Like, very self-made, right? And your husband's advice on business would be pick niche industries, do something really good, but try to avoid, like, you find your place, but don't just compete with it if the wheel's already made. Mm-hmm. Elon Musk competed with banking, the big 5 auto manufacturers, and NASA. Well, like, none of those would be a great business decision if you were going to try to carve out a niche with $1 billion.
That's what I'm saying too. And
right?
if you're gonna, so you are going to criticize him. Do you think he's never been criticized before? And do you honestly think he cares?
I'm pretty sure your feelings aren't going to matter in his results.
You know,
right?
because he's doing what he said he was going to do.
I just love that he fanboyed the administration as big as some of us in healthcare have been praying for this kind of a change.
I'm so excited for what God's got planned for our country. It
feels the patient that I brought up that said that she met you at the inauguration. said that lately waking up and seeing the news, it's almost like every day's Christmas. Like you can't wait to see what good thing is happening to people around us, right?
100%.
Like, are people, is the interest, are the interest rates going to go down? Are we maybe not going to be in wars? Are we maybe not going to be?
Well, the transparency for me is
killing
what
people
is
with
the best
processed
thing,
food,
you know.
right?
I mean, because you know, I heard people saying, well, you know, he's just been on everything. He's an egomaniac. He's just wanting to have his face on everything. No, he is.
He's talking to his people.
Transparent.
He's communicating.
We are having press.
You're
conferences.
not used to transparency.
We haven't
because
had a press conference.
You had a president that hid in a basement and got elected.
Yeah, think about it. We haven't had a president voluntarily go up to the podium in a long time. You know,
and put himself at risk of. It's not like the other It's not like what was just released from 60 Minutes, where they gave you the script and then edited all the stuff to make you look good.
But the thing I will say that I'm so excited is that he's demanding respect this time.
Wow.
You know, and egotistical, not egotistical.
I like
he's
that they're
the most
including
powerful
more
man in the
people.
world. Yeah.
I like that you're going to bring in more people. Like you're bringing in internet reporters.
Yep.
Right. You're bringing in people from X. Look, people can hate on Elon all they want, but when he said you guys are the new
but you know
media,
what's
he was
fantastic
very right.
is that they can hate on him, they can hate on the president, and I say this all the time to people. If he were to walk in the door, you would be so glad to meet him and shake his hand. So you can talk all you want and say all you want, but there is no doubt in my mind that 99.9.9.9 whatever percentage of the people that have negative thoughts about President Trump or Musk or anybody else for that matter,
RFK.
when they walked in, if they were to walk in the door, they would immediately change their tune. And because I know President Trump personally, he's amazing, and his presence is amazing, and he's kind and he's thoughtful, and
that comes across when he communicates with you, right?
Him. And so for me, I just think it's funny, like people talk so much crap, and this is in general as well. Like I'm sure people talk about me, and if I see him, hey, how are you? Like whatever, you know. But especially President Trump, like you can't tell me he was a noun, he was a verb, he was an adjective. Like the man's been everything, right? His name, and now he's running the country the way it should be run. Yeah. You know. And so it's
very exciting.
It is such an exciting time. Yeah.
I think for medicine, it feels like the little guy stands a chance, which is the oddest thing in the world, that it took a self-made billionaire to give the little guy a chance.
Well, you know what's funny, Wade, is people say to me all the time, oh, you're just a conservative because you're wealthy. And I tell them, nope. You know what? I'm a conservative because I grew up poor. Yeah. And I saw that it was all bullshit. Yeah. I saw my grandmother worry about how we were going to eat and how we were going to survive, but believed everything that she saw on TV being said. Right. I walked with her to vote it was for Carter. I walked with her, and I remember going in, it was at the National Guard Armory in our hometown, and we go in, and it was very serious. We didn't have a car, and we walked everywhere. And so we walked for her to vote, and we got there, and she was like, Tracy, this is a big deal. You get to go in there with Grandma, but you don't touch anything. And we went in these little booth, and you pull the curtain like a shower curtain. And I stood there so proud that I got to share that moment with her, and that we were going to get this man because he had promised on TV he was going to take care of us, and we weren't going to not have groceries, and we were going to be able to have nice things.
Someday
we were
going to
be able to have money for food and all these things. But then he got in, and then I realized, wait, we still don't have this, we still don't have that, we're still poor, and my grandma's crying because she believed everything this man said. And so I'm not a conservative because I'm wealthy now. But by the way, I'm wealthy because my husband's worked every day since he was freaking 13 years old. So that's a whole nother
He's a grinder
show.
too,
that's
man.
a whole nother thing I could go off
Brian's a grind. You know what people that are grinding it out don't have time to do is complain.
No.
Because you're busy grinding it out. And they don't hate on other people.
No.
Like if people think that Brian spends any time and energy addressing the people that hate on him, they're so wrong.
Again, think about what we just said about
he doesn't have time and energy for that because he's busy in his own grind.
Well, and think about what we just said about Musk and Trump. Like, do you honestly think that they have time? Trump's trying to
They're
freaking
grinding it
save
out.
the damn
Like,
country.
they don't care if you're hating on them. Brian has been, like, he's the closest. He's, my kids even call it, when we talk about someone's mentor or someone that has, financial is better off than someone else, but still really cares about him, trying to help him out. We always go, well, that's his Brian, right? Right, that's his Brian and
But,
Tracy. Because in my life, Brian is one of those guys that I was in school till I was 34.
Yeah,
I didn't know anything. Financial statement. Like I'm not that guy, right? Like I'm trying to grind it out.
But
And I'm trying to make everyone
gifting.
better, right? Brian can look at a financial statement and go, that's the problem, right?
Yeah.
Like,
but everybody's got their gifting, and I will just say this as well. Like I have a lot of issues with things people say. I just think it's ignorant. But, for a while when it was going on social media, when it was like, billionaires are just sitting on the back of their yachts and, they're not doing this, they're just sitting. Wait, I know several billionaires, and every billionaire that I've been on the back of their yacht, they're working.
Oh, yeah.
And guess what? They work to get the yacht.
They have their laptop out doing that while everyone else is having fun.
They're not posting inspirational quotes on social media. They're freaking working.
Yeah.
So I get so tired of that as well.
It's about the free flow of revenue. Like most people, a healthy society has a robust middle class. Yeah.
I don't care what your success is. Celebrate it.
You should
be proud.
My favorite thing my grandmother said, and I never really got it until I was an adult, is because I thought it was just a country thing. I thought it didn't sound very intelligent. But she meant it the way she said it. She used to say, when something good would happen for someone, she would say, I'm so proud for you.
I say that all the
right?
time.
I'm proud for you. And I was like, oh, she meant proud of you.
No, for you.
She meant she's proud for you.
I always say to people, just always remember that I'm praying for and believing for the very best for you. And I'm proud for you.
Yeah.
Whatever your situation is, I'm
such
proud for
a
you.
unique thought.
Because you know what? Not everybody can handle everybody else's life.
No.
So we've got the society that feels like you should begrudge success and be mad about that. And, they're owed. Nobody's owed shit, And so to me, I just think be happy for other people. And I also feel like that if you have earned success, wherever you're at in your life, if you don't embody that and you don't, if you're ashamed of that in some way, which is what has been taught for a while, I feel like that's like spitting in God's face, because the Lord's blessed you with certain things and given you success, and then you're just going to kind of be ashamed of it. Why?
Well, and it's twofold, because you and Brian embrace as much as anyone I've ever known, not only the gratitude side of what life is, like your daily, right? Like where you get to go, who you're talking to, the experience, like the way I feel about you being here today. You experience gratitude at a level that a lot of people are incapable of, but you're also very, very, very generous people with your time, with your energy, with your resources. Like there is no way, and this was told to me a long, long time ago, and it's very, very, very stoic and very Christian thought, is you can't outgive the world.
No, and this is
right. And the more you give to people, the more it comes back.
Well, and this is the thing too. I just think you need to be grateful for everything. Like, and I believe, again, it goes back to, I believe I have like a very Pollyanna outlook. I expect the best things. I was actually telling Brian this last night. I said, isn't it funny? We were talking about everything with the election and just different stuff. And I said, isn't it funny how I didn't, because he said, well, you called it like you from day one, from 4 years ago.
4 years ago.
And
matter of fact, you even said, because one of your friends had actually prophesied it, that this administration would serve 2 terms, but not consecutive.
Said, and I believed it from day one, and so I was telling Brian, isn't it funny that I never doubt when I know it's the Lord, but if it's me, I doubt myself all the freaking time,
I gratitude is, I teach the girls, if grandma always, my mom, and my daughter just got the tattoo of that word kindness. my mom would always say there's the two most important things. The most important quality to have as a person is kindness, and the most important emotion to experience is gratitude.
Yeah.
And you can experience a lot of emotions, but if you're experiencing gratitude, if you put yourself in a position of what you're grateful for, you can't experience anything other than that by
100%.
itself.
It
You can't experience
changes
sadness
everything.
or guilt or grief if you're experiencing gratitude. And it will change and elevate you as a person when you acknowledge that there are things you need to be thankful for.
Yeah. For sure.
I think I know my daughter has given us the signs and been changing batteries like mad and trying to keep cameras going and power cords lit up and everything else. But I wanted to make sure I was able to say thank you so much for tuning in. I don't thank Miss Tracy for being here, and I'll let her tune it out. But I think that there's one point I want to make, because there's no one on the podcast I've ever had that this is as true of, is that the reason Western medicine gets a lot of things so wrong is because it doesn't recognize the divinity of this creation that we walk around in. And if you're a monotheist, or if you're, I think honestly, just even a good people, but certainly a Christian, or if you acknowledge a God, if you have acknowledged a God, I think that means you acknowledge that this was created. If you acknowledge the divinity, that we were divinely created, and then we broke it, thousands of years of Tylenol and UV light and processed food and cortisol and stress and psychiatric medicines and poisons in your food. When you acknowledge that if this was divinely created and then we broke it, that means that if we were divinely created, we were created with a lot of ways to try to fix the brokenness.
100%.
And most of what we do, and most of my passion about what we do, is driven by the fact that there is ways in the human body for it to get better on its own if it's given the right resources, the right treatment, the right self-talk, the right frequency, the right connection to the world, the right spiritual life, the right thought. There's a bunch of different things that could go in it. But there's going to be some formula that God had for you to heal that we broke, and most of the time the corporate sponsorship gets in the way of it.
Well,
right?
I think that it makes you, I think Western medicine sometimes makes you more like, it's the whole thing, but makes you worse than you were, right?
Yeah, for sure. They want you. I would have never believed that, but there's a lot of money in keeping people sick.
Yeah. Well, I just know that, because you do believe your faith, you believe that the body can heal itself, know? And
there's something metabolically broken that we can fix. And whether sometimes it's peptides, sometimes it's minerals, sometimes it's the taking D3 with, there's sometimes some really easy things to do to hack this and help it do better. Right? But you need to know what's going on first and know what's wrong. And that's what sometimes Western medicine doesn't care about. They want to treat a symptom
and not
because it has a code and not treat a person, because that's a lot harder to bill for.
Well, and I think too, trauma and childhood trauma and just stress and anxiety makes us so sick so much of the time, but then you go to the doctor and he says, oh, well, he doesn't ask you about
take
that.
This medicine.
Yes, exactly. Like, this will make you happy all the time, right? And
you'll sleep better. But now you aren't dreaming, and now you're depressed, and so now you're on an antidepressant,
and
then
you
take someone else for energy.
Then
you gain some weight, and then I mean, it's just like, it's not uncommon for someone to come into our clinic on 20 different meds. There's no way that person feels good, right?
But see, this is why he's such a great doctor, is because you genuinely care, and you genuinely get to the root of it. You care what the problem is, and you're not saying that you can fix everything, but you will look into it and go down the rabbit hole and figure it out as best you can. But that's what makes you a great doctor, and that's what makes all your stuff such a success, I believe, is because you do genuinely care, and your faith has a lot to do with it too, Wade. I mean, I think that, because you do believe that God created the body a certain way and it'll respond a certain way, and a lot of people don't, and a lot of people are too scientific about it, and to find that happy medium is really hard for people, I think, in your position. And
I think God's the ultimate scientist. He understands how cells talk to each other.
Well, 100%,
and how a mitochondria works, right?
Well,
like
but for you though, you are you have more of a scientific mind. Like I don't, I just believe the Bible says so. I go with it. Yeah, I believe that Noah lived to be 920 years
old. And by the way,
I believe,
the minute someone from the South starts talking down a little bit, put your hand on, like Tracy will undersell her, like, oh, I don't know anything about science. Like, oh, shiny things.
Well, but
be really careful. Like Tracy's a really well-read person, a published author, well-traveled.
I do have a child's mentality about faith stuff, though, and I believe.
No, for sure.
Because the Bible says so. You are more scientific, and so for you to be able to have the happy medium to where you do have as much faith in God as you do in science, and you've intertwined the two is really unique, I think, Yeah. And with the cells, I think that's even elevated your faith maybe.
Absolutely.
And seeing it scientifically has made you
knowing
believe
that
even
the
more.
capability of the body to heal is there.
Yeah.
Right. I have to, most of the time we just have to get you where you're less broken and you'll get better.
Yeah. Well, I just think that everything you do is amazing, but I do for my back, like seriously, like just I was a believer in everything you did before, but I mean, I'm not kidding you. Like it sounds so cheesy to even, but my back hasn't hurt and I haven't had to have Brian run my back. It's just weird to not complain about my back.
I told Brian, your countenance is so, you always, you experience joy, like your smile always lit up a room, but you were a little less giving of that by the end of the day a lot of time because you would tell you'd move. Now your shoulders are just casual.
Well, but
you just feel a lot
lighter.
more casual.
Yeah, I feel lighter because I don't feel like I have this throbbing freaking pain.
I love that.
And I didn't even realize how bad it was throbbing until it stopped. And so that is something I think is you don't know how bad you're hurting until you're not hurting anymore. And then you're like, well, dang, like how did I, like, but you can learn to live with anything, right?
No, for sure. Like people, there are people like, I'm amazed all the time at what people are able to get through a day with.
Yeah, but now that I can get through that, but then if I get a paper cut, then I fall to pieces, right? Like, so whatever. It's
Look, I'm so blessed to have had Miss Tracy on my show.
Well, I've had a great time. We need to do it again when we can talk about more stuff.
We started with no subject. Actually, I had a couple things I wanted to talk about that we didn't because I wanted this to be the first real kind of just conversational time I've had a friend on to just have a conversation.
We have some hardcore views.
Yeah.
That
we're not for everyone. And again, if you've turned into this, hopefully it means that you like me and kind of know my heart a little, but the viewpoints expressed in this show,
yes,
are absolutely mine.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
And Tracy and I are very much kindred spirits.
Well, and I do always say this too: like if you tune in and you don't really agree, my question is always like, then rather than watch and troll comments, then watch something else you really agree with. Yeah,
And look, I don't know. Like people cannot like the current administration or anything else, but I think everyone realized we need a change and Americans deserve better, right? And I think we can get on the same page pretty easy and go, look, I said one time at the end of the podcast the other day, I can tell you right now, no matter where you're from and what race or economic background or education, I can tell you right now, most likely, if you're a good person, because I think I work really hard to be a good person. I miss the mark. I'm a sinner saved by grace. But I work really hard to make sure I put a lot of effort in raising my kids. I know that kids are always watching, so I have a lot, and I work really hard to take care of patients. I've said forever that if you put me in a room with someone and the things that are most important to me are my God, my family, and health. I pretty much know if you're a good person, those may not be your top three in order, but they're at least one of my top three is in your top three.
Mm-hmm.
if you're a family person, if you value your health, or if you're a monotheist and believe that you have a God, I know that my top 3 are probably your top 3. So if we have the most important things about my life, if I have those in common with you, everything else is just chatter.
Well, but
right?
I agree. And I also think that, I just think that people need to realize that it's okay if we don't all agree, you know?
Well, you don't have to agree on all the little things.
And
the beauty of life is because it has all these extra colors and stuff that I wouldn't have picked out.
yes,
right?
yes. Well, and two, everybody has been through different things and ended up where they are, and their beliefs are based on those things. And so for me, I have people tell me all the time, like, you represent President Trump better than President Trump represents himself. Because I will tell people the side of him that I see, and I have had so many people say, Tracy, my God, like if I mean, like that makes sense, like, you know, whatever. And also, I just don't believe that, I don't force what I believe or how I see things on people. Like, it's your choice, but I promise you, I'm not going to judge you, and I don't want you to judge me, you know? And so I do have I had a really sweet friend one time. She was Muslim, and the sweetest compliment she ever gave me, there was 2 reasons I love this. She said, I love the way you love your God. And I love that because, just from my opinion, just the fact that was the sweetest thing, but also that she made sure to say, my God.
Right.
So she understood the difference in what we believed, and
so respected you.
Yes, and I respected her.
Wow, that seems like such a nice. That seems like it should be the way.
Yeah,
it shouldn't be uncommon, right? That should be the way.
Yeah, and that's how I feel. Like, I love Jesus, and to be honest, it makes me sad for people that don't have a relationship with him, because I can't imagine not. But I also tell people I will not debate with you or try to push him on you, because it is an honor and a privilege to serve and love him. And if you think you need to be begged and just, you know, drug kicking and screaming to believe in Jesus and love him, then work it out amongst yourself, because I'm not doing it.
You guys figure it out.
Yeah, because guess what? It is a privilege and an honor of my life that I get to serve him and know him and love him. And so if that's not how you feel, don't think you're doing him some kind of favor, you know? And for me, he's not on some kind of sale rack.
Right, did we take this off?
You know, he's not on some sale rack somewhere begging, oh, please, please.
Who wants to be someone's second choice?
Yeah.
Right.
And should never, because if you honestly think that anything about your life you're in control of, you're an idiot, first of all. Secondly, like, we're Mr. Magoo walking around like we walk off the edge of a building onto a mattress truck and that just happened. No. Like, you know, the Lord's is guarding you, and there's spiritual warfare and this, that, and the other. But it also, the very breath you have, you breathe to say you don't believe in him, he gives to you. So if you have the audacity to be so freaking flippant as if, well, I don't, guess what? Nobody cares, to be honest. And I'm not going to debate with you about religion and about faith. And I love Jesus and talk to Jesus the way I talk to you, and have loved him my whole life, and have not always been in the best place, made the best choices. And that's okay, you know? But my love for him didn't change, and my feelings toward him didn't change. And for people to sit and say, well, you're never going to convince me, guess what? I don't want to convince you.
You don't even know. You've lived a life.
Yeah,
right?
I've
like
lived
you've been in every
hard
segment
life.
of society.
I've lived a hard life.
And oh, by the way, you fit in where you're at now.
Yeah, and
because you were the same person no matter what situation you were in your past.
And I don't care. That's just it. So it wasn't that my faith ever changed. And you have Christian people who say, you know, well, that's not possible for you to have been in a strip club working as a stripper and have Jesus there. But yes, it is. Yeah. You know?
If you have a gold coin and it rolls into the sewer, it's still a gold coin.
Still a gold coin,
right?
100%.
And you can, once you clean it off, we are really
where do they
special
think that-
people, no matter what's going on with you and where you're at in life.
Yes,
we
but
were
do
all
people-
created as that gold coin.
But there are Christians that I believe do push people away by being judgmental and being like, well, you have to look a certain way and be a certain way, and I disagree with that. Yeah. But at the same time, this whole debate and this whole arguing about, well, is there a God, is there not a God, and Jesus is... Listen, I don't give a damn what you think, to be honest. I know that it's real. I know that the very breath I breathe comes from, and it is my pure joy and honor to love him. And if you don't feel that, I'm sad for you, So
I love that. I think that I'm going to use that as I want to say thank you to everyone. Please hit like and subscribe. And turn on your notifications on so you can find out about the next episode. I do think that this conversation, if we can pry Tracy away from their move at some point over the next couple of weeks, I would love to continue the conversation about some of the other varied, beautiful interests and some of the people and places and events that are upcoming, hopefully for someone setting up here. It would be really fascinating to be able to touch base again over the next few weeks.
Yes, I hope my hair is not as flat next time.
So anyway, please, thank you so much for your kind attention. And as always, I genuinely appreciate the trust and love that our patients have shown us. And I want you guys to know I genuinely love and care about everyone. Thank you so much.